Welcome, everyone, back to the Sanderlanche podcast. Today, Oathbringer, Stormlight 3. We are doing chapters 7 through 9. In these chapters, Kaladin initially looks like he's going to have trouble, but then just pulls out a Shardblade, which trumps everything. Finds out he has a new baby brother. He talks to his old girlfriend, and for some reason, Rashon is left alive. Meanwhile, back in Urithiru, it turns out someone else has died in the exact same manner as Sadeas, which is causing Adolin all kinds of grief, but he can't tell anyone about it because that would reveal that he killed Sadeas. So Shalana's just like, dude, what the fuck's wrong with you? So that's all kind of fun and games. I'm Dak, and with me as always is...
Data?
Jamie?
And Joe.
So buckle up, the Sanderlanche is about to begin.
Yearnings intertwined, the golden age in ashes once again. Under stirring stars, in the burning shards, kindle fragments of the falling rain. So look to the break of dawn, to the break of dawn. Stronger together now.
So yeah, 3 more chapters this time, guys, and we, Kaladin's foray at home seems to be over for now, but it was an interesting while it lasted. What did you guys think of these 3 chapters?
Yep, good stuff. Obviously, we're still in the setup phase. Didn't expect to see Kaladin having a new baby brother.
Neither did he.
No, well, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's quite a large age gap between siblings. So, and as he points out, oh, Mum's kind of old. Like, I didn't know. Like, didn't know, that the body clock would allow that, but here we are. Interesting to see Laurel, although like she's kind of not antagonistic, but definitely in a like you have no right to judge me role to Kaladin. But I kind of get it. Like she got dealt like not the best hand either, having to get married to Fuckknuckle over there. So yeah, like it was interesting to see her and how she's grown. I know everyone says like, oh, I'm going to pick Moash as the most hated character everywhere. Like, no, sorry, Rashon is the worst. Rashon is the fucking worst. It hit an absolute nadir this week when Kaladin says, oh, I'm going to need your horses and everything else, and Rashon's like, oh, now you're robbing me. I'm like, oh my god, you have spent your entire life walking all over other people, robbing them, treating them like shit, and just taking all their stuff, and the second someone gives it back to you, it's like, oh, how dare you? It's like, fuck's sake, Rashon, drink bleach.
Fair.
Yep. And then the stuff in Urithiru, interesting. Yeah, okay. I have a lot of questions about what the hell's going on up there, who's doing this, but it was so funny to see Adolin's reaction from someone else's perspective. I know we'll obviously get inside Adolin's head at some point, but seeing Shallan watching, he was going, "What the hell is wrong with you?" Like that was just hysterical to me. I enjoyed that probably more than I should have. Yeah.
Oh, poor Adolin.
Yep.
Poor random guy who got murdered.
Yeah. Like the fact that it is the same method as Sadeas proves, all right, this is not a coincidence. Someone is fucking with Adolin. So,
you think someone's doing it specifically to mess with Adolin?
Potentially.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, I don't think it's too much of a stretch to say I suspect Ghost Blood involvement here, but yeah, we'll find out.
The Ghost Blood's involved in some shady murderous business? No way.
Yeah.
Never happened.
Yeah, good chapters. Rather than starting at the beginning, I'm going to start at the tail end or middle section. But yeah, having another murder and exactly the same way, that is quite a fun predicament if you're not Adolin, I guess. Well, and you know that Adolin did the first one. I agree with Dak. It was fun seeing that from Shallan's perspective. I cannot wait until we get into Adolin's head. That's going to be really interesting. And now to be in charge of the investigation, that's got to be trippy for Adolin. So I'm really looking forward to seeing where that thread goes. Kaladin, yeah, my man. Look, I'm 21 years older than my sister. Enjoy the ride with a little baby brother. That should be super fun for you. And those questions are all valid. I thought my parents were done with this. How? What? How? Why? Why did you go back for more? But yeah, I guess a hard time for them thinking their sons were dead. Not that you can replace them, but gives them a little bit more something to be happy about, I guess. And yeah, I loved that Kaladin was that was the thing that brought the emotion for Kaladin. he's got a new little baby brother who he adores, and I thought that was a really sweet moment when he scooped him up in his arms and just held him and cried a bit, and that's so sweet. And it's like such a big complex of emotions for Kaladin. Obviously, he loved Tien, and Tien had a very special place in his heart, and it's not replacing Tien, but it's so nice for him to have someone else to care about. So, not only has he come back and he's found both of his parents still alive, he's got, a bonus in there, which I thought was really sweet. I did like that he didn't wait too long to show everyone his shard blade, and then also the reveal of the radiant powers and how different that was received across the people of his town. Some awestruck, some horrified. That was pretty cool. Rashon, yeah. Look, he's a weaselly little thing in the book, sure, but I listened to these chapters and he sounds like, in The Princess and the Frog, and it's the guy who's pretending to be Naveen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sounds like him a little bit. Just like,
oh, God, I see it.
Yeah. I was like, I hate you. and now I really hate you because, yeah, you sound pathetic.
And marry a rich young lady or get a job.
Pretty much, yeah.
Lawrence was that guy's name, right?
Lawrence, that's right. Yeah. So that was well played in the audiobooks. What else happened? Bit of a chat between Shallan and Patton, which was fine. I'd sort of forgotten, not forgotten, but we'd gotten the reveal at the end of the last book about what happened to Shallan's mother and Patton's involvement and all that sort of stuff. So I'd not forgotten about it, but it feels like so long ago that I didn't expect us to have to deal with it in the book, even though in the book it's been like a week maybe. A lot's happened since then. So yeah, I didn't mind that we had a bit of that in there as well. But yeah, good chapters. I think we're hitting the ground running. I'm, like I said before, I'm loving this whodunit mystery when we know who done half of it so far. So but yeah, for Adolin, it was an absolute spur of the moment thing. Whoever is messing, they're either messing with Adolin knowingly, or they're messing with whoever killed Sadeas to try and worm the killer out. So yeah, I guess the big question is, do they know it's Adolin or not? But
that's a long way to go to worm a killer out, to murder somebody else.
Yeah, I've got some thoughts on who I think it might be, but
okay,
I'll save it for the end.
Okay, fair enough. In some ways, we really have hit the ground running here. I agree, and I mean, Jack mentioned we're still in the setup phase, and that's obviously true too. But stuff is revving up, and
I think you're sort of used to that. You start a new book, and some time has passed, and we're sort of recouping where everyone's up to and who's doing what. But realistically, we haven't had it's been 6 months since the last book. Like we have, yes, we're in a bit of a lull, but we have picked up where we've left off, and Kaladin is going out, and he's already going to chase, oh my God,
the
Voidbringers. And we've jumped straight into a murder mystery, and like it's definitely not Sanderlanche territory, but we're not sitting still, which I quite like.
Yep, it's already more action probably than at the beginning of some of these things, so that's fair. And we already had the first I don't know if we've ever gotten the first flashback this early, unless you count like the very first Kaladin chapter was not really a flashback. It was just that the second chapter of the book skipped like a year later or something, or 5. I forget how long after, but it was like Kaladin's a soldier, and then skip. So it's almost like the first Kaladin flashback, but.
Yeah.
So things happening, and this Adolin being put in charge of the investigation to find the killer that he is 50% of, unless he's gone crazy and actually started killing other people. I don't know that anyone has mentioned that possibility yet, but
I don't think so. But hey, you never know.
Oh, but yes, it's like what's the movie where the traitors get put in charge of finding the traitors within the organization on both ends?
I think it happens a lot, but I believe The Departed was a big one.
That's the one I'm thinking of, The Departed, yeah.
Yep.
Classic.
Matt Damon. Daedalin. No, that didn't quite work.
Matt Damon. Dun, dun, dun.
Leonardo de Adelin. Yeah, no, that doesn't work either.
Leonardo Damon. Matt DiCaprio. Hey, man, these were chapters. No, I really liked them. I kind of agree with Jamie that I feel like even though we're in a setup phase, I was thinking to myself after finishing the chapters, it's like, this is really like well paced right now. Like I don't feel like we're slowing down. I feel like there's a good pace going on already, and we're only 9 chapters in. So that's nice. It's kind of fun to be on this pace. Hopefully it won't, like I said, slow down and become a political thriller. That would be not good, in my opinion. So I hope it maintains this pace. But yeah, everything that Dak and Jamie said, I kind of agree with. I liked a lot of the pieces here were shown. Yeah, I mean he's what he is, right? I don't know why Kaladin. I don't know if it's because after he, it's the first time he's seen her in so long, and it's the only girl he's ever really liked. But like the Laurel bit where he's just like, "Hey, I'm sorry, I was gonna come back for you." I was like, dude, that's weird. Like you guys are adults now and like completely different people, and she's been married to that guy for a long time. Like I think it's reasonable for her to be like, look, this is my life. Like I don't need you in my life. Like I'm fine. But very cool moments with summoning the shard blade. His dad seemed bummed about that. I don't know why. But then he seemed super shocked which I mean everybody was, when he displayed his radiant powers. His mom had Oathbringer, his dad's jaw dropped. So it's like, what does his dad think about that? Because his dad obviously didn't really agree with his son's choices. He made that pretty clear.
Yeah, he did.
Which is kind of sad. It's like the first time your son is alive. This is the first time you've seen him in years. And you're like, why did you do that? You should have done this. But I guess, those were his expectations. And so the Shalon stuff, when we moved over to that section, I really liked her conversation with Pattern. Like Jamie said, it feels like it was a long time ago, but really it's just been, days since she and Pattern had that discussion. And then, yeah, I love a good murder mystery, right? Mm-hmm. And so we all knew who had killed Sidaeus, and it was funny because like Brandon gave us that, right? He gave us the action scene where Adolin kills Sidaeus, and then we're left with this scene where it's like, oh my god, somebody killed this person in the exact same way and staged them just like Sidaeus. Adolin, you're in charge. Like it's almost comedic to the point of like absurdity, because it's like, oh, we all know that Adolin killed that one guy, but who killed this person? Like it's almost silly, but at the same time it's fun. I like that kind of stuff, so I'm here for it. And so we've got that fun little mystery to figure out. I also have some theories. I think my theories and Jamie's theories may line up. We'll see in the predicament section of who could be behind this second murder. But anyway, but yeah, good stuff. Excited to keep reading.
Okay, yeah. Fair. That's I'm curious. I'm really interested now. You're both like, we've got some theories, so I can't wait till we get to predicaments and you guys pop out with who we think is behind this new. I almost said these murders. We know who's behind one of the murders. That's not a question. So these murders, or this murder rather. I also love a good murder mystery. So it's I feel like this is a format for the murder mystery that you don't see all that often, where the person, it's not that the person who killed him, who did the murder, needs to solve the mystery. That you have seen, but it's like there's 2 murders, and we assume, because to all appearances they are definitely connected. Guy who committed one of the murders, find out who did these things. Like I can't think of a time that I've seen that exact thing before. So it's interesting. Most detective shows don't work real great when the detective is a murderer. That's more of a one-off.
Yeah, there was no like Poirot where Poirot turned out to be the murderer.
Yeah, no. Although that was was it the first Poirot novel? It was like the first or second one that is being written from someone's perspective about like Poirot solving this mystery, and then it turns out that the guy whose perspective it's being written from is the murderer. Spoiler for the book whose name I can't remember.
Neat.
I think it's it's gonna bug me now. It's like the.
But
I think-
well, you don't have to look it up because like now, like at the moment, it's not a spoiler.
Oh, that's true. Okay, yeah. I have to look it up for me, but I don't have to tell you guys who did it. Just yeah, okay, fair enough. But that was a good one. I read all the Poirot novels that last year, I think, or the year before, and
How many are there?
if you don't count the ones that are a bunch of short stories, like I think there was hold on. I read all the Poirot ones and all the Miss Marple ones, and Miss Marple, there's not nearly as many of as Poirot. This says that overall Poirot has appeared in 33 novels, although I think some of those may not have been by Agatha Christie. I only read the Agatha Christie ones, which I feel like is 20 something. I don't know. I don't think it goes all the way up to 30 something. But yeah. Also 2 plays and more than 50 short stories. Interesting. There's one of the novels that is just like a novelized version of the play, or one of the plays, but the play is like is heavily based on another one of the novels. So it's like a weird, like, I feel like I've already read this novel, but this is a little bit different, and it took me a while to figure out why. Anyway, random stuff. So I guess let's do these chapters, guys. The first one is chapter 7, Watcher at the Rim. And the preface from Oathbringer continues, I did not die. I experienced something worse. All right, then, mysterious author, that's something. And so we come back just after Kaladin has punched Roshone in the face. And it described at the end of the previous chapter, it was like a good, solid punch, like sent him to the ground. And his dad's like, no, what are you doing? Like, I thought that I'd talked us out of like them imprisoning you or whatever, but you're going to get yourself killed.
No, stop, don't.
And Roshone's on the ground like, guards, take him. And Kaladin, once again, completely unconcerned about the guards. He's just kind of staring at him, and Syl sitting there like, yeah, he probably deserved that. And Roshone, like, the guards start to gather, and Roshone's like, what are you waiting for? Strike him down. If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Strike him down for punching me in the nose.
Cut them down.
Kill a guy because he punched me in the nose.
Dark eyes can't go around punching light eyes, man. It's the way things are.
It's the way things are. I bet that's what the Nazis said.
After they got established, yes. Before that, they're like, it's the way things are gonna be.
It's the way things are going to be.
And Kaladin's mom's like, no, he's just distraught. And Kaladin's like, no, it's fine. Guys, everybody, it's cool. That was just
meant to do it.
That was a little unsettled debt between Roshone and me. And he looks at the guards, and I love it's like Kaladin feels completely in control and kind of embarrassed about how childish she's acting. And he also, I mean, he's kind of looking at Syl and thinking like, I'm not supposed to be like this. Like, didn't I swear to protect even those I didn't like? Wasn't that the whole point of what I'm doing here? And Syl nods at him, and it's like, do better. It's like, oh, fine.
You do better, Syl. Everybody telling me to do better. I'm tired of being told to do better.
That's the end of also spoiler, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where Falcon goes up to all these senators and he's like, you guys need to do better. And they're like, but we have all of these like real problems with no good solutions. And he's like, do better. Oh, okay. We'll do that then. And Kaladin tells the soldiers, okay, guys, stand down. I'm not going to punch him again. I'm sorry about that. I was momentarily distracted by our history, but we got to get past that. And they're like, they're not sure what to do because their Bright Lord has just told them to kill this guy. And this guy's like, hey, what? No, it's fine. And so Kaladin has to be like, I said stand down. You're holding that sword like you're going to chop a stump weight. And you, rust on your cap? Jeez, you guys, I've seen messenger boys with more battle poise. And all the soldiers, including the light-eyed captain of the guard, like he puts his sword away. And Roshone's like, what are you guys doing? I said kill him. And the guard's like, yeah, I'm sorry, dude. I might not be the best soldier around, but you got to trust me on this. We should just pretend that never happened.
This guy is a badass, and he will kill us.
And then I like that Roshone, I expected more blustering, but he kind of thinks about it for a second and looks at Kaladin, and he's like, so they did make something of you in the army, huh? Yeah, you have no idea. And he's like, okay, so we need to talk. Is there a room that's not full of people? And his dad's like, Cal, don't go giving orders to the Bright Lord. And Kaladin completely ignores his father. He's like, well, empty room? And one of the soldiers is like, up the stairs, sir. The library is empty. And Kaladin smiles about like the sir. Like, yeah, that's right. And he's like, okay, everybody join me up there. And then when they don't move, he's like, hey, I gave an order. I don't want to repeat myself. And Roshan's like, yeah, okay. Why do you think you can order anyone around? And then it comes out. The Sill Shardblade, or Sill Blade, as it's called sometimes. I don't know if that's in the books or if that's a fandom thing, but Sill Blade forms in his hand.
The Sill Spear sounds better.
I agree, that does sound better. In this case, it's a blade, but it's a spear at the end of this section. So
The spear is Kaladin's thing, so.
yeah, I feel like it would be harder to explain if you jump straight to the spear.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, fair point. It's like, what is that?
yeah, like, wait, why do you have a magic spear and why should we care? And of course, his eyes turn blue. It says he can feel them, which I'm like, geez, what does that feel like? And he just stabs the floor with his sword. He's like, any other questions? So this is he's the sword, or I'm sorry, the floor bane. There's a lot more. There's more floors around than tables, so
The floor bane, huh?
he should be more feared.
Yeah.
Sadius for Beyond the Grave is like, fuck off, that was my thing.
You merely adopted the floor.
And then we cut to them upstairs, and one of the guards, Eric, is like, yeah, they just left. We went out to check on them, and I went out there when I heard them breaking through, or something breaking out there, and they looked crazy, but they just left. Kaladin's like, before he mentions how they look, Kaladin's like, what did they look like? They changed, right? He's like, yeah, they did. They look just like they look like Voidbringers, I tell you, with big bony bits jutting from their skin. And through this whole thing, like, Rashon is just sitting over on the side of the room. It says, periodically pushing both hands along his flushed cheeks towards the back of his head, which is like a weird picture to me. I'm just like, that's an odd, like, nervous tick. It even says in there, in an odd, nervous gesture. And so they also, the parchment got taller after the storm, easily as tall as you are, Bright Lord. And Kaladin's like, why didn't they attack? Maybe they just thought like Hearthstone was too small to care about. And the guard's like, will you tell the king the storm ripped away 4 of our silos? We'll be starving afore long. And when this high storm starts again, we won't have half as many homes as we need. And Kaladin's just like, I love how casually he's like, yeah, I'll tell Elhokar. But geez, the whole kingdom's going to be this bad. I feel like there should have been some reaction to the fact that Kaladin is on a first name basis with the king. But he can't concentrate on that. He's got to focus on the Voidbringers, figure out what's up with them. And he tells the soldiers, okay, I need maps. As detailed a maps as you have of the area, and horses. Several of them, the finest that you have. And that's when Rashon's like, he doesn't even look up. He's just staring at the floor. He's like, so you're robbing me now? Like, it is very, like, petty, just in the corner, like, mumbling, oh, so you're robbing me now, too? And Kaladin's like, robbing? Well, let's call it renting. And he pulls some money and drops it on the table. Money that we later find out, this is, like, more money than Rashon and his father argued over all those years, that he just chucks at him to get him to shut the hell up. And he's like, surely Rashon has survey maps of the nearby areas. And he thinks that Rashon's not important enough to have stewardship over the High Prince's lands, a distinction Kaladin had never realized when he was younger. Those lands would be watched by more important Light Eyes. Rashon is just like the first point of contact in the area. So he's not really important at all as far as Light Eyes go. But
we sort of knew that. He was assigned there in disgrace.
Yeah. But I think kind of like Kaladin, we were not aware at early stages about the intricacies of this Light Eyes hierarchy. The guard captain's like, we'll have to wait for the lady's permission, sir. They'll let him punch Rashon to the ground and not do anything, but we're not going to touch the maps without the lady of the house's permission.
Yeah, we all know who's in charge there.
Apparently, yeah. Which is funny given how much younger than him she is. And he says, okay, I'll get permission. Get me a span reed to Tashik. If any of the Ardents have one, I'll need to contact Dalinar. And the guards leave, and he's like, Rashon, I got to chase down those parchments, see if I can figure out what they're up to. Do you have anybody with tracking experience? And Rashon's just like, he's just still staring at the floor, like pouting. Like, why do they matter so much? Surely you've guessed. The Red Lightning, terrors transformed from common servants. The desolation is here, Rashon. The Voidbringers have returned. And then we get, often in the middle of conversing with people, Kaladin turns and starts whispering to Syl, which I feel like must just look so bizarre to people. That
yeah.
he's in the middle
thought
of
about
talking
that
to them,
several
and he's just like
times.
turns to the left, like, pss, 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 pss. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's the real reason people are obeying his command, because he's crazy.
It's just like, this guy's crazy. Just do what he says. Oh. But him and Syl get in kind of a lengthy discussion. He is standing alone in a room with Roshone talking about like the desolation and the Voidbringers. And then he just takes a couple minutes to have this like whispered conversation with himself, as far as Roshone could tell, about he kind of doesn't like swinging her around because she's a lady. And she's like, wait, what? You don't care about your other weapons like that? And he's like, well, my other weapons aren't people, are they? And then she looks at him as if he just said something very stupid.
This whole conversation too, it's like, so all things have a gender. What are we talking about?
Yes, it's like in Spanish, or actually many languages, actually, where all the nouns are gender.
Yeah, it's taking me back to high school Italian. What do you mean the table's a male? Okay.
Oh, man. See, it actually makes sense to me there. It never made sense to me in like foreign language classes that the gendering, it's in German also. And here, at least, I'm like, oh, her explanation makes sense. Like, they have spren, and the spren have genders. So there you go. And so he's like, wait, so my spears have been women then? And she's like, well, roughly half are female, as these things go. It's your fault for personifying us, so no complaining. Of course, some of the old spren have 4 genders instead of 2. Wait, what? Why? Because humans didn't imagine those ones, silly. And then she's back as a shard blade, and it has like a hypnotic effect on Roshone. Maybe just because it's so damn valuable, these shard blades. And he's like, how did you get it? And Cal's like, does it matter?
It's mine, dirtbag.
Owning a shard blade was enough. If you could claim it and not have it taken, it was yours. And he's like, you're a cheat and a rat.
Homie won 3 of these before he even decided to use this one.
Yeah. It's true. He won a lot of shards. I mean, Adolin helped with some, but still, it's a hell of a thing.
Third time's the charm.
And this one, he didn't, have to win in battle. He made friends and got a shard blade out of it. That's the real shard blades were the friends we made along the way.
Oh boy.
He tells Roshone, you're a cheat and a rat and a murderer, but we don't have time to like get rid of the whole ruling class in Alethkar and put something better. So you're gonna have to stand up and lead these people. We're gonna fight back. The Everstorm's coming regularly. We're gonna have to be prepared. And Roshone's like, how? Like, do I have to tell you everything, motherfucker? Just build homes with slopes in both directions. How about that? If you don't have time for that, then find a place you can hunker down. I can't stay. This is bigger than one town, even if it's my town. I have to rely on you, Almighty Preserve us. You're all we have. And it turns out that for at least part of this, Laurel was listening, because from behind him, there's a voice that's like, we'll do it. And she says, looks like you went and grew up, Cal. I'm sorry to hear about your brother. She has a span read to the Queen Regent, but that hasn't been responding lately. But we also have one to Tashik, like you asked about. If you think the king will respond, we can go through an intermediary. Also, I hear you stabbed my floor. That's good hardwood, a huff, Honestly, men and their weapons. And this is where I agree that, like, I get Laurel's perspective on this, where Kaladin, I mean, he's not thinking a lot right now, but also he's never really known when to shut up. So he's like, I was going to come back and rescue you. She's like, who the hell are you to be saying shit like that?
This is my life.
Also, we've spent a fair amount of time in Kaladin's head. Was he?
Right? Yeah, I don't feel like he's thought about her in a long time.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, was she ever mentioned
might
in
as
like,
well
the
just-
present day sections and not the flashbacks?
I don't know that she was.
Maybe once. But yeah, he might as well have walked up to her and been like, I know why you're sad. She's like, I'm not sad, hero.
I mean, it's real close. Yeah.
It's like, I'm fine, thanks. This is weird.
She's like, I'm quite happy here, or I was until the wind started blowing the wrong direction. You take after your father, always feeling like you need to save people, even the ones who'd rather you minded your own business.
Ouch.
Yeah, that was a little bit unnecessary, I think, but I get it. And then they get into a thing where he's like, Roshone did everything he could to destroy my family and my father. And she's like, and your father spoke against my husband. How would you feel as a new Bright Lord to find the town's most important citizen openly critical of you? Which Kaladin thinks to himself that that's not right. And we only saw a couple of their interactions, including the very first one, but that's bullshit from what we have seen. When Rashon first shows up, Kaladin's dad is like, hey, can we give you a tour of the town? And Rashon's like, oh, you're the motherfucker who let the last Bright Lord die. It's your fault that I'm here. Fucking town.
Yeah.
It's actually your own fault that you're there, but whatever.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe after that, in between flashbacks, his father was openly critical of the new guy to the other townspeople. We can't say that that's not true, but she's got a slanted view of this for sure.
I mean, she's spent like he is her meal ticket at this point, so it's probably in her interest to try and stand up for him, even though we know it's inaccurate.
Yeah. Well, and also I don't know how much time she spends around the common people of the town. Maybe living up in the manor house. From what she's heard, that could be accurate.
Possibly.
And so she says, I'm going to set up the span read. It'll take some time to get a reply. The Ardents are getting the maps. And he's like, great. I don't want to hang out with you guys. I'm going to go talk to my parents. And as they leave, Syl's like, so that's the girl you were going to marry. And Count's like, no, that was the girl I was never going to marry no matter what happened. And Syl goes, I like her. And she says, you would. And this is when he looks back and sees them kind of like looking at the money that he left. And he was like, wow, I gave them a lot of money for them. Like, I'd always thought of Light Eyes as being rich, but this guy, he's just like a different kind of poor. And now everyone's intimidated by him. And even people who now know who he is, people who knew him as a kid, thought, I was like, oh my gosh, Shard Bearer, like, get out of the way. Not his dad. His dad's down here healing people again. And Kaladin slides right back into the apprentice role, handing him tools and things. And then Kaladin suggests that they might want to cut a little kid's arm off. And the boy's like, oh, what? And Lyran's like, no, hey, it's fine. Let me talk to your parents. We're not going to cut your arm off yet.
Yet.
Yeah, well, yeah. And then as they kind of walk away, Lyran's like, you've become one of them. And Cal's like, hey, my eye color doesn't matter. No, I'm not talking about your eye color. I don't give a crap about anybody's eye color. You've become the kind of person who solves problems with a fist and a sword. I'd hoped you'd find a place among the army's surgeons. Which, honestly, he probably could have. I assume that even in the army, they value somebody who can perform medical treatment. I don't know that he tried in any way.
Also, whoa up, Dad. You don't know what he's been through yet. Just chill.
Yeah. Well, like Kaladin says, like, I wasn't given much of a choice. It's a long story. I'll tell you sometime. And he says, I can't stay. And his dad's like, more killing then. So wait, you think we shouldn't fight the Voidbringers? It's like, no, I know that we have to fight the Voidbringers, but I didn't want you to have to fight the Voidbringers. We're surgeons. Let others rend and break. We must not harm others. And this is where we get our chapter title drop. You're a surgeon. I'm something else. A watcher at the rim.
I don't know what that means, Kaladin. It's fucking weird.
Kaladin is so fucking dramatic.
I know. Like,
He is.
I wouldn't have been surprised if his dad was like, what the hell does that mean? You think you're so smart, don't you, little smart ass?
Kaladin is about to swear blind that this whole Shardbearer thing is not just a phase, Dad.
Yeah, it's not just a phase, Dad. I'm the watcher at the rim. About to put my foot in your ass, stupid.
I like it. Joe's version, Lyran is like Red Foreman.
Yeah. I mean, he's pretty critical.
I was just editing the last episode. We do the same thing where it's just like Lyran absolutely turns into like Red Foreman from that 70s show. It's awesome.
Hey, you little smart mouth.
Dumbass. And his dad's like, well, I'm glad you're safe. Bye. And Kaladin's like, hey, puts his hand on his dad's shoulder. Life before death, father. And his father's once again like, what the hell is... Yeah, okay, well, talk to your mom before you leave.
Yeah, all right, cool. Stupid.
I feel like this is the first chapter in which that has been like a thing. I mean, I know it's the first oath or whatever, but it hasn't been something they just go around saying all the time. And I feel like Kaladin is trying to make it that.
Stop trying to make life before death happen, Kaladin. It's never going to happen.
Exactly. I was about to say, it's like Fetch. His mom has something to show him. By now. I got to heal these people. Honestly, it surprised me at first that he's going to go up and have an important discussion about the state of the world with the Bright Lord. His dad totally could have gone. as an important member of the town, but also the dad of the guy who is suddenly the most important guy in town. He could have totally gotten away with going up and finding out the details about what's going on. He had no interest in that whatsoever, and he just goes back to healing people, which makes sense for him. I would not. If it was me, I'm like, I want to know what's going on. I'll use any excuse to go and be involved in the conference. And then he go after getting some water and some food and an umbrella, he goes back up and he sees that the span reed is working. I mean, she said she was going to set it up and send a message. Or were you not paying attention? He's like, how do you have stormlight? She's like, there was a high storm just a few days ago. He's like, well, yeah, but it wasn't expected. And she goes, Cal, it's not hard to hang some spheres out once the storm starts blowing. And it's like some of the other people have some too. And he realizes, hey, I might be able to fly again. That's way better than walking. Or horses. Like, he was going to take horses from Rashon, but he really doesn't like horses. So
No, he does not.
And he ends up leaving without the horses. And so he gave Rashon all that money for no reason.
Yeah, a.k.a. Brandon was like, fuck horses.
Yeah. Calvin was like, oh, good thing I didn't take him. I would have had to just kill him.
Yep, would have had to shoot him as soon as I got where I was going.
I mean, you weren't renting them. You were not bringing them back. So
it's fine. He paid him enough money for the cost of the horses.
He comes back to Rashon and it's like, oh, no, they died. Sorry. They were killed in battle with the Voidbringers. I didn't say the Voidbringers were the ones who killed them.
Yeah. I fed them to the Voidbringers, let's be fair.
You Voidbringers won't get my horse. I'll kill it first. You will never succeed. But she gets a hold of someone in Tashik who can relay a message to Navani Kholin, the king's mother. You really think she'll respond to you? And then instantly, it's like, Captain, this is Navani Kholin. Is it really you? And I like Laurel takes it in stride. It says she blinked and then looked at him. And I'm like, well, she took that well. All right. And he's a shard bearer, so I guess you can kind of expect that he's, hanging out with important people these days. And then Dalinar shows up. I mean, obviously it's Navani writing for Dalinar, but I was like, what's your status? And he explains the situation. He's like, I'm worried they left because this wasn't important enough to bother destroying. I want to follow them and see what's up. And Dalinar's like, yeah, no, that's a good idea. I feel blind in this tower. Get close enough to discover what they're doing, but don't take unnecessary risks. Also, take the span reed and send us a glyph each evening to know so that we know you're safe. So, yeah, I screw the people who own this span reed. You just take it.
It's yours now.
And Callan's like, understood, sir. Life before death. And Dalinar writes back, life before death. So he's totally trying to make it a thing.
Calvin, I mean, he takes a span reed because he's like the Blues Brothers. He's on a mission from God.
He is, yeah.
Well, he's on a mission from, like, the leftover spread of God.
I'm on the mission from God's last fight.
I mean, to be fair, this is a mission.
Have the same ring to it.
No, it does not. Nope. This is a mission Kaladin kind of gave himself. He was like, I'm leaving the tower. And everyone's like, but wait, no, you shouldn't leave the tower. We need to. Nope. I got places to be. See you guys.
Except for Dalinar, who's just like, of course, my favorite son, whatever you want.
Of course, the only person who has been completely justified in my eyes time after time.
Like, it's kind of a common joke in the fandom also. Like, I told you guys at one point that there's sometimes a joke that Dalinar forgets he has two sons. And because, Renarin kind of fades into the background. And somebody wrote a response in an email, and I don't know that I read it to you guys, where it's like, Dalinar doesn't forget he has two sons. He knows Kaladin is there. It's like, oh.
Got him.
Yep.
Take
I mean,
that,
it's not out of the question. Like, Dalinar would forget his sons. He already forgot his wife.
It's true.
Oh, true facts. Yep.
Wow.
In the original version, Way of Kings Prime, the first version of that book that Brandon wrote, it starts out with the guy's not named Kaladin, but it's clearly the character Kaladin kind of grew out of. Like, the guy wins a shard blade on the battlefield, and it's kind of a more classic hero story where he takes the shard blade and he becomes all important, and Dalinar like adopts him into his house, so he does kind of become like another member of Dalinar's family. But not exactly how it goes here.
Close enough.
Yeah. So I like Laurel doesn't even argue. She packs up the span reed and hands it to him. Like, hey, the most important man in the world said you can have this, so fine, here you go. The most interesting man in the world. And then he just goes down the steps and notes that like a crowd is in the entry hall. And that's when he sees, hey, what's his mom doing with that toddler? And she's like, Kaladin, meet your brother. Some of the girls were watching him for me. And he just like melts.
He's like, oh, no,
I mean,
I got a brother. Yeah. No, I get it.
Kaladin had enough time to like sit there and have some soup and all that sort of stuff. No one thought to tell him at this point he had a brother. He's gonna wait till he sees the toddler. By the way, your mum's got something to show you. Like, really?
That is a little bit, yeah. You're not wrong.
His dad's a weird egg. He's
His
not
dad-
like, oh, hey, let me come with you. There's something really important we need to talk about.
His dad didn't tell him. Laurel didn't mention it. Like, nobody. Of course, most of the people in town are now scared of him, and I don't think anyone else has spoken to him, so I understand them. And so I like his memories of this place had not broken him, and seeing his parents had not overwhelmed him, but he could not stop the tears. And the little boy is named Oradin, which means child of peace. He's like, oh, that's a good name. And people are gathering around watching, like, the surgeon's son turn slave, turn shard bearer. Hearthstone wouldn't see this much excitement for another 100 years. Or not if he had anything to say about it anyway. And so he offers to trade people. If you have infused spheres, I'll give you like 2 for 1. And then at the end, his dad gives him one. He doesn't give his dad any change back. He's like, okay, I'll take that.
Kind of a full of himself statement to make us like, my hometown hasn't seen anything this important since me. It won't again.
You're not wrong. Yeah.
What's this song from Book of Mormon? But mostly me.
That's a great song. Yes, I have that on my
absolutely
on playlist. Yeah. Yep. You and me, but mostly. Okay, I'm not gonna do that anyway. And his dad comes out. His mom. They're all there. He's like, "Hey, I have a place that'll be safe that I'm gonna take you guys to." And Laren's just like, "No." And Khan's like, "Father, it's the desolation." And people are listening, like they're nearby enough to hear, and they're like, "Oh, what?"
Read the room there, Cal.
He's like, "Please don't be stubborn. Like, I know a place that's safe for you and mother and little Oradin." And his dad's like, "Well, you can take them if they'll go, but I'm staying here, especially if what you just said is true. They'll need me." And Khan's like, "Okay, fine. We'll see. I'll be back as soon as I can." And he looks back, and all these people have just overheard him say that the desolation has come, and there's Voidbringers and such. And he's
it's the end of the world. Bye.
Yeah, right? He was just going to walk out, and he's like, no, I can't do that. And so he's like, hey, everybody.
No safe space for them. It's fine.
You heard right.
Only his parents.
Yeah. He didn't mention taking anyone else away. He's like, hey, I'm going to get you guys to safety. Screw all these people, especially Rashon.
I mean, that one's justified.
Rashon and Laurel like come down the stairs, and everyone's staring at him. He's like, okay, you guys heard me right. The desolation is here. The Voidbringers have come back. And then he sucks up some stormlight and makes himself float in the air. And he says, High Prince Dalinar Kholin has refounded the Knights Radiant, and this time we will not fail you. And everyone is like, from adoring to terrified and everything in between. His dad's jaw drops. But his mom is like an expression of pure delight with awe-spren bursting around her head. And he thinks, I will protect, little one. I'll protect them all. And he flies off. And I have to say, we talked not too many episodes ago. Somebody wrote in about like the really like sad emotional moments that get to you. Dak pointed out that it doesn't have to be sad. Some of the emotional moments can be like actually really uplifting and happy moments that still get to you. And this section is one that does it for me every time since the first time that I read this. But it's just like from the moment that like his parents see him alive to then this moment at the very end where he's like reveals what he is and his mom is just like delighted and he flies off and swears to protect them. Like, this gets me every time. I love this section of the book.
What a softie, am I right? No, the whole chapter, the whole section with Kaladin and his folks is just really nice. You know, sometimes you wish his dad was a little more like understanding, but at the same time with like at the end you kind of get this sense that maybe his dad understands a little more when he's like, oh, my son's a Knight Radiant and he just flew away. Like he can't turn away from that. That's not something he can just be like, no, I'd rather be a surgeon. Like, he's got a thing he's got to do.
Yeah, Dad was not expecting that. Okay, the next chapter is A Powerful Lie, which, as everyone assumed, is a Shallan chapter. And the preface, that moment notwithstanding, I can honestly say this book has been brewing in me since my youth. So, okay. Shallan is trying to sketch the tower, and she's having trouble with it. And we actually, right before that chapter, we see the page from Shallan's sketchbook where the tower, like, disappears into a black hole or something. Like, I don't even know how to... She describes it in the chapter, but if you didn't see it, it would be hard to comprehend, I feel like. And meanwhile, Pattern's like, hey, Shallan? And she's like, just drawing, trying to not even deal with this. He's like, hey, I understand you hate me, Shallan. I didn't mean to help you kill your mom. And she's like, hey, I need to draw. Just let me draw. And we get inside her head. She's the only full Knight Radiant who can work the control building. So I guess that means like Renarin, like we know Dalinar doesn't get a sword. The Stormfather said that. I guess Renarin isn't advanced enough along his path to have a sword. So she's the only one who can make the Oathgate work. So it keeps her busy. And every time she drifts into thinking about like she had to summon her blade to work the Oathgate, the blade she'd used to kill her mother, and so she tries to get away from it again. Just draw, it's fine. And Pattern's like, hey, it's okay, you can hate me, I understand. And she's like, I don't hate you, I hate the sword. The sword isn't you, it's me and my father and the life and how everything got twisted all around. And Pattern's like, yeah, I don't understand at all. And she thinks, I'd be shocked if you did, because I sure don't. And then a scout comes up. And the scout is like, hey, the High Prince wants you. And apparently we find out that Dalinar has been trading for infused spheres to work the Oathgate and bring in supplies and to give the Radiant to practice with. And it's getting expensive, which is unfortunate. And the woman looks through the sketches that Shallan's been doing. She's like, wow, these are amazing. What is this? And she's like, yeah, I can't get the tower right. So I kind of slipped into surrealism. It's like an old artistic movement. And as the scout leads her into the tower, we find out that everyone's calling her Brightness Radiant, and everyone thinks she's an else caller because she has talked Dalinar into pretending in public that Shallan doesn't have the power to make illusions, because if everybody knows that you can do that, they're on the lookout for that, and they're not useful. And the scout's like, hey, can I ask you a question? Like, you're a Radiant, but you're also a girl, right? You have like a shard blade and everything? And Shallan's like, I can assure you, it's quite possible to remain properly feminine while fulfilling my duties as a knight.
Yeah, so I don't get the point of that question, and then also I'm confused by the girl's reaction after she answers it.
How so?
Well, doesn't it say the girl sounded disappointed or seemed disappointed?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Like I don't understand. Was she like, "Are you actually a man?" Like what was her game plan with that question? Why is she disappointed?
That's a fair question. Yeah, I don't know that we should get into that, but it's it does seem a little strange and out of nowhere.
We shouldn't get into it. AKA,
yeah, it seems like something we're going to learn in the future.
Well,
yeah.
It's not so much that as it's like I'm pretty sure that I know why that would be, but if I say it, it like stops you guys from being able to think about it. Okay. I don't know how better to explain my thought on that, but anyway.
Good talk.
Yeah, right. But she does. She seems disappointed by this, as if she's like, oh, okay, yeah, fine. And they get up, and there's also a note that like other people have trouble figuring out like how to get around the tower. And Shallan's like, it's super obvious. You just look at the stone, and it's like designed so you know which direction you're going or whatever. But apparently, no one else sees this.
It's a little bit. I don't know. I felt like that was out of character for Shallan. Like, it's obvious. Don't you guys know how to look for it? I was like, well, no. Look at your spren. Look at your abilities. You can see
she's being
places.
Yeah, she's being very Hermione in this moment. It's like, isn't it obvious?
I shouldn't say it out loud, at least, which Hermione had a tendency to do. So they get up to the room. Adolin, Renarin, Navani, and Dalinar are all in there, which, as Shallan like kind of thinks about later, yeah, I'm invited here, but this is really like a family dynamic that they have going on. Like, I'm not really part of the group. I mean, if you get married to Adolin, you'll be part of the family. So, and they're talking about how to approach these other kingdoms. And the Azish are first, and Renarin has some interesting insights where he's like, not like these things about Adolin's like, doesn't their government mandate how you peel your fruit? And Renarin's like, well, that's a stereotype. I mean, they have a lot of bureaucracy, but so on and so forth. And Navani's like, I wouldn't worry about them. They'll listen to reason eventually. They always do. What about Tukar and Imul? They've been at war for so long that they may not even care about the desolation. And Dalinar's like, yeah, that warlord in Tukar, what's his name? Tezim. He claims he's an aspect of the Almighty. And I love that Shallan sets her stuff down and she's like, oh, well, at least he's humble. And then
so avatar of one of the shards, maybe?
I mean, maybe he at least thinks that. Could be, yeah. I mean, if you look at the map, Tukar's not a very big kingdom, so I'm like, if you're that important and powerful of a dude, is that really what you'd go after? Maybe it's got some sort of importance beyond just the size of it. Whoops, sorry. I went to look at the map and I got off my page. And so Dalinar's like, hey, Brian Nishalon, how would you deal with the Makabaki kingdoms? Azir is super important. Emul and Tukar are at war. Tashik's information network would be useful. Yezir, Leofor, and Shallan's like, I have heard of several of those places. Yep. And he gives her like a look, and Pattern is hummed in concern on her skirts. And she's like, look, why are you asking me? I know of those kingdoms, their existence, but I'd never even left my home before coming to Yasna. I'd never even spoken to someone from Alethkar, and we're neighbors. And Donna's like, okay, I see. Could your Spren offer some help? Like, can you maybe bring him out? And she's like, Pattern doesn't really know much about us. That's kind of why he's here. Also, I think he's scared of you. I love that Pattern is scared of Dalinar. That's great.
Again, I just attribute that to, if on a Spren like Silt seem to hate the cryptics, and if the Stormfather is basically the biggest honest Spren of them all.
Maybe. I hadn't thought of it that way, yeah. So maybe Syl has seemed to really like Dalinar. I was going to say maybe Syl will like Dalinar, but we've seen her talk about him before. And Aelin's just like, don't be like that, Dad. If anyone could intimidate the forces of nature, it'd be you. And Dalinar has to admit that he's kind of overwhelmed. Like, it's just so big. I'm supposed to reunite all of Roshar. I've never even visited a lot of these places. And then there's a weird moment where Shallan feels like a pull from Dalinar. It never really explains what that's about in this chapter, but she's drawn towards him, and then the stormlight comes from her satchel, and she touches the map on the wall, and somehow like a big map is created out of light in the middle of the room, like a map of the entire world with insane detail. And she's like, how the hell did I do that? And then when Dalinar asks, like, this is amazing, how did you do that? She's like, I don't know if I did anything. I don't have the knowledge to create something like this. And Renar's like, well, I didn't do it. I'm the only other Radiant in the room. So, and the light came from you. And she's like, well, yeah, but your dad was tugging on me at the time. And Dalinar realizes, oh, this is like what the Stormfather sees when he goes over Roshar. It wasn't you, it wasn't me, it was us somehow. Together, we did something more than we could have done on our own. That's really interesting.
By our powers combined, we are Captain Roshar.
Yeah. Captain Map, my favorite superhero.
Yep. I'm the map. I'm the map. I'm the map. I'm the map.
I'm the map. And I like Navani's like, yeah, how much stormlight did that take? And Shallan looks in her satchel. All of it? And they make the decision. There's 10 cities with oath gates in them in 10 different kingdoms. That's where we start. The Voidbringers are everywhere, but if we get the oath gates, we can be more mobile. But we have to be fast. He's coming, the man with the 9 shadows. And Shallan's like, wait, what? The what now? The enemy's champion. I've seen him, a creature in black armor with red eyes, a parshman maybe. And Renarin, like, eyes wide, jaw dropping open, but only Shallan notices. And we never revisit that, so what exactly that means, I don't know.
Well, what's this whole thing? He sees things, like, is that he sees? I don't know if that means he sees the future or like he, or what he sees, but like, yeah, he's obviously seen something like about this. He has information. Once again, no one listens to him.
Well, he doesn't try to say anything.
No one, yeah, but like, Shallan's just like, dude, and like they could have asked.
It's true. I feel like if Dalinar had noticed his son's reaction, I think Dalinar would have been like, hey, do you know something?
This is like a continuation of the Shallan just thinks Renarin is creepy and keeps it to herself.
That's going to be your brother-in-law maybe, dude. You need to figure something out. And so they start listing off the oath gates. Azamir, capital of Azir. We talked about this previously. So there's one hidden in Shinovar. A 6th was lost in Amia, the island that was destroyed. So I don't remember if we'd heard that before. We know that we've now seen 2 different brands of Amian. And in fact, while we're on the topic, somebody emailed in, and I was gonna and was like, "Hey, you should remind them of this other time Amians were mentioned." So you remember that we learned that Axes is a Sia Amian because he says that like Amiens, even Sea Amiens, were rare these days. And then we find out that Weird Crab Guy is a different kind of Amien in Edge Dancer. So all the way back in Way of Kings, Wit is having a conversation with Dalinar. You may remember he looks at Dalinar, he's like, at Analsium. And Dalinar's like, wait, what? He's like, have you ever heard that term, Dalinar? And Dalinar's like, no. Like, oh, it's just some nonsense. Don't worry about it. Isn't it odd that gibberish words are often the sound of other words cut up and dismembered and stitched into something like them, yet wholly unlike them at the same time? And Dalinar's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And Wit says, I wonder if you could do that to a man. Pull him apart, emotion by emotion, bit by bit, bloody chunk by bloody chunk, and then combine them back together into something else, like a Daisy and Amian. If you do put a man together like that, Dalinar, make sure to call him gibberish after me. So there you go. A Dicey and Amian you could take apart and combine into something else, which does sound kind of familiar. But yeah, do you guys remember, was it mentioned before that Amia was destroyed?
I don't recall either.
I have no memory of this.
Okay,
Yeah, nothing.
fair. Vedinar, Thalen City, Shattered Plains, and Kolinar are the other Oath Gates here. So he's like, we'll focus on a few of them. Azir, Yakaved, Thalana. Those are the powerhouses. We're going to try to get them on board first. And then the scout from before is like, hey, Bright Lord, there's something you need to see. And he goes, what is it, Lynn? So her name is Lynn, apparently. Sir, there's been another murder. In our last chapter, the threads of a screw, and our last piece of Oathbringer in this for our reading today, the sum of my experiences has pointed at this moment, this decision. They're very small chunks, mostly. But I think part 1 is pretty long, actually. There's 32 chapters in part 1 of this book, so there's lots of time to get pieces. And so they all rush to see what this other murder is all about. And Shallan thinks, well, one good thing about being Brightness Radiant is that nobody is like, hey, what are you doing here when something important is going on? Nobody even considered the propriety of leading a young woman to the scene of a brutal murder. What a welcome change. It's like, finally, I can go to murder scenes. And people aren't like, well, why are you here? The corpse had been a light-eyed officer from Sabarial's army. And they all get ahead of her, and she's pissed off, like storming a Lethe long legs. And she doesn't have any more stormlight so that she can keep up with them. But eventually Adolin notices and slows down for her, which is nice. It's not like he can get more dead, eh? He says. So Bridge 4 has discovered this body, and the dead guy is laying in, I think what she decides, like this is like a room for a bath or something. So, and he's lying down in the cavity where the water would go. And he's been stabbed right through the eye. Not only was he killed the same way Sadeas, he's even lying in the same position as Sadeas. And so Navani's like, wow, this is exactly like how we found Sadeas. It has to be the same killer. And I love she's thinking, like, nobody tries to shelter Navani from the sight of a dead body, as if it were completely proper for the King's Mother to poke at a corpse. Who knows? Maybe in Alethkar, ladies were expected to do that sort of thing.
All right, girls, it's time to learn our etiquette class. Let's all go poke a corpse.
I mean, the other thing is, who's going to stop Navani?
Yeah. A couple people might try. I don't know that they would succeed. So, yeah.
That's a one-way trip to getting catapulted.
Navani doesn't let people tell her what to do. And she turns to look at Adolin to get his thoughts, and Adolin's just staring, like, open mouth, like, what the? And he goes, this is impossible. Impossible. And she's like, Adolin, did you know him? He's like, I didn't know him. I figured Sadeas' death was an isolated crime. You know how he was. Any number of people could have wanted him dead, right? I mean, he's not wrong. Just like when they found Sadeas' body, pretty much everyone in the room wanted him dead. They were like, well, this is good. That guy sucked. And Shallan's like, yeah, I guess it was something more than that, huh? There's a light-eyed captain here. And he's like, Kolat, you're an archer, aren't you? Why are you scouting with Bridge 4? And he's like, the Windrunners needed extra feet, sir. My archers are mobile. Figured it'd be better than doing parade drills in the cold. Good man, Kolat, get in there. And then I love that Shallan is watching this, and suddenly Renarin is like right behind her, and she jumps and lets out a pathetic squeak. He's like, oh, I forgot he was there. It's just so random. It's not like he appeared out of nowhere. Renarin was with you already.
And they seem to be really playing this up. Like, I don't remember in the last couple of books that, like, Renarin was particularly sneaky or anything. And, like, unless they're alluding to another power that he has.
Maybe.
What that, like, and they could be. But, yeah, I feel like this has become a thing really quickly.
Maybe Shallan
Yeah.
just has a blind spot in regards to Renarin specifically. Like, he didn't sneak up on her. She stepped in front of him and didn't realize. And then he's just like, hey, can you move? He's like, ah!
So, yeah, it could be a new power. It could be just something weird about Shallan. It could also be, I guess, that they're just trying to, like, give... Renarin hasn't had all that much character, at least not, like, that was front and center. So maybe they're just trying to, like, give him some more something. Of course, it turned out that he was the one scratching dates in the walls and things, so...
Yeah, but that wasn't exactly the biggest reveal in the world. Like, they didn't make a lot of it when it finally got revealed.
That's true. And Dalinar's just like, oh, this is troubling. Like, have we not had enough going on to not be, like, murdering each other here? Some like a serial killer basically is slinking through the halls. Most of the men I would assign to investigate this are dead. The King's Guard is no better off, and the Bridgemen, for all their fine qualities, have no experience with this sort of thing. So, Adolin, you're up. You did so well investigating the King's Saddle, where you walked around and asked everybody, hey, was this cut? And they were like, yeah. So, yeah, you're going to find out who did this. And Adolin's like, you want me to investigate who killed Sadeas? And I was like, yeah, perhaps if I put my son on the job, it'll convince people I'm serious.
They want you to do it because they don't know you did it.
Yeah, he's so shocked. Like, all right, they don't know that that's me. Okay.
Me of all people? What?
And I like that Dalinar's like, man, I miss Yasna. She would have known how to spin this. It's like, son, I trust you. You can do this. And Adolin's like, okay. And he's so awkward that Shallan's like, what's wrong with him? Why is he acting all weird? And then she looks over and Renarin is like staring at his brother with unblinking eyes. And she's like, okay, he was always a little weird, but he seems to know something that I don't know. I don't like that. And Pattern is still on her skirt humming. And finally, when everybody else is gone, Shallan's like, she's like, me and Adolin, we have a special relationship. Maybe he'll confide in me. Everyone's gone. She's like, grabs him. Like, what's wrong? You knew him, didn't you? Do you know who killed him? And he looks her in the eyes and is like, I have no idea who did this, but I am going to find out. And then she feels bad for being suspicious of him. Like, what was I thinking? Adolin is wonderful, and he's about as deceitful as a newborn. Like, how could I have doubted him?
He also phrased that in such a way that's like, it is entirely the truth. He doesn't know who did it to this dude. So, Patton's not going to start buzzing going, oh, that was a lie.
But apparently, like, I like that she waited till pretty much everybody was gone. But Renarin, once again, she didn't notice that he was still in the room or something, because it says as they leave, Renarin stays in the room just looking down the hall.
Like, did she go visit the Night Watcher and say, can I please forget Renarin?
It's right. It comes across that way a little bit.
Yeah, but everybody seems to be not paying attention to him too much. He's being a little sneaky.
That's his superpower, is not being noticeable. It's like the second Dresden Files book. That can
potion,
backfire.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, they asked him, oh, what can you do? He said, I see. He could have just gone, I see and am unseen.
I stare at people creepily. It's the greatest of the radiant powers. I rarely have to blink. Okay, that's our chapter.
Much like Drax, he's learnt to be invisible.
That's what it is. He has Drax powers. Yeah. He eats the nuts so slowly that no one can see. Okay, we're going to do predicaments. For next time, we're just doing 2 chapters. This may be the only time in all of part 1 that we're going to do this few chapters. But actually, it's the only time for most of the book, almost the entire book, that we will do this few number of chapters. So not that I think that matters all that much, but just random and interesting. The chapters 10 and 11. 10 is called Distractions, and 11 is called The Rift. So, predicaments. What do you guys think? Where are we going? What's going to happen? And if you want to use the chapter titles, feel free.
I got no idea on the chapter titles. NFI. Yeah, so as I've mentioned, I think that the person behind this murder is, like, I think this is the Ghost Bloods up to something. Like, maybe they're trying to send a message, like, that, they can do this and no one will suspect them, no one will catch them. But I feel like this has got to be in some way, like, someone knows what Adolin did and maybe they're trying to blackmail him as a result by replicating the crime. They're sending him a message. Why the Ghost Bloods would do that, I don't know. Like, they know who Shallan is. They know they've got an in with her. But, yeah, I don't know. The sneaky, like, oh, my God, how did they know to do that sort of thing that fits with the Ghost Bloods' MO. So, what was it? What was his name? The guy in charge that Shallan met in Ethereal at the end? Blowgun dude?
Oh, Mraize.
Mraize, that's right. I keep forgetting his name. I was going to say Graves, and no, that was Moash's buddy. Yeah, beyond that, I don't really know what's going to happen. I think we'll get a nice action scene with Kaladin hunting down some Voidbringers, but I don't really know, the repercussions of that, how it's all going to go down, what will happen as a result. So it's kind of just there'll be a fight scene. Stunning prediction, that one. Otherwise, it's just wait and see.
I mean, you raise one really good point that we keep being told the Parshmen are the storm turns them into Voidbringers. And in Edge Dancer, I think we saw some red eyes or something, and we get told that they look weird in this chapter, but we haven't actually seen any of them up close and personal yet. So are they going to be just like the Parshendi were when they took storm form, or is this something completely other? We have no idea at this point.
Yeah. So, and why they didn't attack the town where they all went. So maybe we'll get some info as to what they're up to. But again, who knows at this point?
Yeah. Fair enough.
Okay. Yeah, with the chapter titles, I'm not entirely certain either. So I'm going to leave them where they are. My thoughts. So first of all, I reckon Renarin knows that Adolin did kill Sadeas, but he's not going to say anything yet. I was thinking about who would want to find out what happened to Sadeas, and who also wouldn't care if they took someone else along with them, and who would be up for playing mind games, whether they knew it was Adolin or not. I reckon Iolai might be behind it.
Oh.
She would be able to read reports. It's been about a week, so there'd be some time or 4 days to a week, somewhere in there. She would be able to read the reports of what had happened, be able to get someone in to stage something that looks exactly the same. She is passionate enough about she didn't want Sadeas dead. She and Sadeas were really two of a kind there, but also wouldn't give two craps about killing someone who was innocent on the way. So that's my early thought of who might be behind it, and that's kind of a way to psych out whoever did it, right? So yeah, I don't know how Adolin would investigate something like that. I think that would be pretty hard to prove necessarily, but I guess you would sort of achieve, if you can solve Sadeas's murder and then everything else looks the same, whoever did Sadeas's murder is going to get taken down for a lot. So if there's another hidden agenda of other people that maybe she wanted to dispose of, because I feel like there was probably a list of people she didn't and Sadeas didn't want around, now would be the time to do that.
That's a really cool possibility. Yeah. I like this idea. Who's sneaky enough that and roundabout enough that this is the way they might go at it. And you were absolutely right. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, she's unhinged.
I mean, her husband just got brutally murdered, so that can't help.
Oh,
but,
and not saying that you could just move on with it, but I feel like she's not the type of person who would sit back and just be like, oh, wait for it to be investigated. No.
That's a really good point too. Yeah, she doesn't seem like the kind of person who's going to trust Dalinar to figure it out and let me know who did it. Yeah, no.
And then force it, if you've got another death, it kind of forces people to have to look into it as well.
Mm-hmm. But you also make a good point in that, how does Adolin investigate that? How do you find that answer? And then if you do find the answer, nobody's going to believe that she killed Sadeas. It's oh, here's the murder of this guy. That still leaves everyone being okay, but who killed Sadeas though?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that opens up a lot of possibilities. I like that.
That's really all I've got for predictions anyway.
Fair enough.
Yeah, Jamie and I were thinking along the exact same lines this week, which is kind of what I figured. I totally agree with everything she said. I think Renarin knows that Adolin killed Sadeas, and so he's kind of trying to piece together wait, what's going on now? This person also died, but Adolin didn't kill this guy. Why would he? And then his wife has everything to gain and very little to lose, at least in her mind, from killing this guy, right? Like Jamie said, even if she's found out, people are going to be like, well, she didn't kill her husband, so who did? And so this is definitely a play that I could see her making for a variety of reasons, right? It keeps the death of Sadeas fresh in everyone's minds. it creates a larger than life villain of like multiple murders and why, and it also casts Dalinar and his group in a light that may not be the best, because if they don't find out who did it, it's going to make them look bad. And if they do find out who killed Sadeas, then it's going to be Adolin, which makes Dalinar look bad. So it's almost like Sadeas' like last revenge. It's like, your son kills me, and that creates basically an issue where everything you say and everybody who's following you, when they find out that your son did this to me, then you're going to be completely ruled either ineffective or conniving, evil, whatever, right? So it's kind of like one final twist of the knife from beyond the grave. Almost.
Final screw you. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You're right. It's a very lose-lose scenario for the Kolins at this point.
Right. And so that's I agree with Jamie totally that is definitely something that his wife would do for sure. She's already sent assassins out before, so would be no surprise for her to do something like that again.
Yeah. Yeah, she wouldn't hesitate to if she thought somebody needed some killing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Much like Yasna, apparently, who if she thinks someone needs some killing, she's just like, I got like 10 assassins on speed dial. It's fine.
I've got 2 tickets to death. Here you go. Pack your bags.
I like that you said at the beginning, like, I think Jamie and I are going to be kind of on the same wavelength on this, and you totally were.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I kind of feel, and maybe we're wrong, but it just feels right. It feels like the kind of thing that would happen.
Fair. Yeah.
Because also, his wife's been noticeably absent this entire time. Like,
True.
She wasn't there when they discovered his body. We didn't hear from her at all. She never said, like, find my husband's killer, like, nothing. It's radio silence from her. So,
we just got to send for her. That was it.
Yeah, it's almost like, did Brandon want us to forget that she exists, or?
Because you feel like she should have something to say about her husband's death. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, wouldn't you?
Yeah. If my husband died, I would have many things to say. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be like, hey, somebody killed my husband.
Okay, I like these thoughts. This is good. This is a lot of fun story possibilities if that's the case. I guess we have one new patron this week and we have 2 emails. So let's move into those things, y'all. Our first email is from Chandler, and it says no, I don't think so. It says, finished your Elantris coverage. Hello, I just finished your coverage of Elantris and wanted to send you a few thoughts. Firstly, Cyberpunk was an inspired choice for the theme song. Maybe you get into this while reading The Emperor's Soul, but when you think about it, Cell is the cyberpunk planet of the Cosmere. The different methods of accessing the door are basically coding, as Sanderson has stated. Forgers are medieval hackers. The novel Elantris is filled with critiques of feudalism, capitalism, and other economic hierarchical structures, which is a hallmark of the subgenre. And between the decor and the post-Raod Elantrians and the Bloodsealers, the quota for body horror is more than met. All that is, yeah, that's true. Sometimes I think that in the same way Star Wars is fantasy dressed up as science fiction, the Cosmere is really a space opera veiled in fantasy language. Different planets, meticulous world design, extremely consistent and interlocking power systems. More logical than anything I've seen in Star Trek, all give me that vibe. Which makes it more ironic how rigorously Brandon sticks to some fantasy tropes. Ever notice how every full Cosmere novel includes a princess? Or the culturally appropriate equivalent? Hold on. I mean, there aren't really any princesses in Mistborn, but there's not royalty in Mistborn. So, I mean, I guess you
besides the Lord Ruler, but
yeah, I guess you could count the Mistborns as being like, super powerful, but I don't think
nobility.
Yeah,
definitely not.
There's
royalty.
nobility. That's true.
Yeah,
I mean, Vin basically became Empress.
Yeah. But then in Era 2, there's no one. I don't know if there's a female character even approaching that in Era 2. I mean, Steris is a noble woman, and by the end, a fairly important noble woman, but not a princess. But the other ones pretty much all do. Yeah, like Elantris, Warbreaker has 2 princesses. Yasna is a princess. in Stormlight. So yeah. Anyway, back on topic. They say I was a bit surprised at how well received Elantris was after Well of Ascension went over like a lead balloon. Elantris is probably my second least favorite novel in the meta series after Shadows of Self. You can tell it's a freshman, and in my opinion, the book really drags in the middle and the humor feels forced. Personally, I will take the debating, scheming, realpolitik of Well of Ascension over clandestine lunch dates, bloodless squabbling, and pointless pontificating of Elantris. Wow.
I think look, I'm not saying Elantris is amazing, but I think the difference to me between those two stories, at least for me, was like we were thrown into, we'd already read the first Mistborn book, right? And so like we've got this second book and we want some things to happen. We want some action to start taking place. And it feels like in Well of Ascension, there's just a lot of icky and politics and not a lot of like good stuff, in my opinion. Like that was probably my biggest problem with it, right? There wasn't a lot of great story moments. It was just kind of like, ooh, that guy gives me icky vibes. Ooh, I don't like that guy either. Ooh, there's a lot of politics in this book. Oh, she just bashed a guy's head in and it like exploded. Like none of it felt, I won't say none of it. A lot of it felt kind of like spinning its wheels and not in a great way. Elantris, you could argue, is narratively maybe not super great either, but it had some very interesting characters and a lot of different like perspective, right? Because we got like in Elantris, you get perspectives from like almost opposite ends of the spectrum.
It's true.
In that book, right? Like the whole book is following these three characters that are like having a way different experience from each other, and at some points on opposite ends from each other. So it was just, I think it was more fun to read because of those things. And who doesn't like, the secret pirate chef? Like who doesn't like that?
I think you have an interesting point in one sense about the expectations, because you're like, we read Mistborn, we're on to the second book, we want some stuff to happen, and then you don't feel like you're getting what you wanted necessarily. In Elantris, you didn't have those same expectations because you didn't know any of these people yet before we started, so that probably does have an effect. Okay, well, anyway. They continue, but that's on the scale of Cosmere novels. In its own right, Elantris really isn't that bad. I enjoyed hearing you all read it, and it's gotten me geared up for Elantris 2 and the forthcoming tabletop RPG adaptation of Cell. Glad you guys are still doing the show so many years later. I look forward to reading Stormlight with you all and hope to be caught up by the time Mistborn Era 3 begins. Your friend, Chandler. P.S. One of Sanderson's friends is writing a Cosmere novel, Mistborn Book of Nails. Perhaps you've addressed this and I won't hear for weeks, but what will your approach be to that? Will you read it because it's Cosmere or skip it because it isn't Brandon? So you guys may remember, I think I brought it up at some point, but Brandon is going to start letting some people write some things in the Cosmere, and one of them is by Isaac Stewart, the guy who's drawn a bunch of our maps and illustrations and things. And he's writing on Scadrial, a novel based starring Nikki Savage, who you guys may remember from the broadsheets in Era 2 of Mistborn.
Ooh.
And originally, it's going to be, the wiki says it will be organized similar to Allomancer Jack and the Pits of Eltania, kind of the sensationalized version, except the sensationalized part will be in the epigraphs and the actual events will be recounted in the book. But the original title was going to be Boatload of Mummies. Apparently, it has been changed to Book of Nails.
It sounds like it's a comedy, which is fine.
Yeah.
But I don't know where you would place that on importance as far as story. It doesn't sound like it sounds more like it's Cosmere adjacent than required reading.
Yeah, I think my answer to your question specifically, emailer, is I'm going to have to read it and then decide. I don't know yet. And so we will find out possibly together.
Like, it also depends on how long it is. If it's only a short one, like it might be a good palate cleanser between something.
That's true.
But if it's a giant book, well, it's like, oh, well, that's a lot of time to devote to.
Yeah.
It
I
says
guess
maybe
it also depends on what Brandon's view is of it too. Like if Brandon is like, yes, this is Cosmere, this is all valid in the story, then maybe it's
imagine
worth putting in at some point.
Yeah,
that's a good point too.
He'd have to sign off on it Can you imagine how bad it would be if like this guy writes this book, Brandon reads this, goes, "This is not what I asked you to write. We're never publishing this."
I think Brandon's probably pretty involved in the first book that he's letting someone else write in his universe. I don't think he's going to be hands off. According to the wiki article, as of September 2022, the first draft of the novel is complete, and the first draft was 118,000 words. So it's not a small story.
No, that's okay.
Yeah,
Like it's shorter than Stormlight, but it's longer than Era 2.
I think so. Yeah. So also, it says the story will possibly involve Naz in an antagonistic role, which actually makes sense because when we read the Nikki Savage stories in the broadsheets, there was a guy who was like trying to steal a map from her that we found out was Naz. So
yeah,
he's
man,
like,
you almost crossed the streams there. Start talking about Castle.
Start talking about Castle. I've read the Nikki Heat books, most of them at least. They're okay.
Who wrote those?
For a long time, they wouldn't reveal. It was just like, no, Richard Castle wrote these, and I think like a few years after the show ended, they revealed like who the actual writer was.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't Nathan Fillion.
No, it's now I'm gonna have to look it up again because I'm curious. Who wrote fictional Richard Castle? Real life author Tom Straw.
That sounds like a pseudonym.
I mean, there's pictures and stuff of him. Also, apparently, he was in an episode of Night Court, according to this. So, I guess he's real.
OG Night Court or the revival?
Yeah, I think so. OG Night Court.
I tried to watch the new one. It's like unwatchable.
There's some stuff about it that I watched the first season or so, and it's not great, but there's some stuff about it that I enjoyed.
I mean, there's some cool nostalgic moments, but for the most part, I'm like, yeah, I can't. This is not good.
Apparently, Brent Spiner came back and reprised his role from the original Night Court in a couple of episodes. Which, after I found that out, I had to go and try to watch them online because I loved Brent Spiner and his the bit that he did in the originals. And then it turns out that those episodes are not on Peacock, which is where the show airs. So I don't know why, but
that's weird.
It is very weird. Yes, it's like they only have certain seasons or something on there, which annoyed me. But if you've never seen Brent Spiner on OG Night Court, like look up the compilations of like the 3 episodes that he did on YouTube because they're pretty hilarious. Sorry, back to the email. A little bit of that was the end of the email. So yeah, the answer, Chandler, is I don't know. We will see. I may well read it for our Patreon, like I do the new Brandon books, assuming there's nothing else out around that time that I need to read that's from Brandon. But I don't know if we'll read it on the show.
Given Brandon's writing speed, chances are we'll have another 7 books by the time this email comes out anyway. So
yeah, it could happen. They have announced when the that next secret project is coming out. That was part of the Words of Radiance Kickstarter. So
yeah, I saw the cover art. Looks nice.
Yeah, the cover art looks very cool. It's and the title is pretty cool too. What is it? Isles of the Emberdark. Yeah.
So I'm right. You said that was a sequel to Six of the Dusk, yeah?
Yes, it is a sequel to Six of the Dusk.
Interesting. I wonder if they'll include that short story in the book then.
I have heard mixed things on that. I heard that it was going to be in there. I heard that it was going to be in there and expanded. I heard that it was not going to be in there. So I'm not certain at this point.
Righto.
It would make sense to put it in there, but yeah, I don't know. One other email we have. This one specifically says, don't use any name for me when you read this, so I will not. It's titled Questions for the Crew. Hi, Data. Thanks for everything you do with this show. It's been a blast all the way through. Thanks to the crew for being the best. And then there's a couple of questions. First, how has the last 5 years been for you guys recording this podcast? So that's a very open-ended question. So how's it been, y'all?
Been a time and a half. And, I mean, it's been like the whole figuring out when we're going to record thing and make sure everything lines up is always just that's it's a fun little exercise. But
yeah.
But I will say it's been enjoyable. It's a different way to read a book. I feel like I retain more information about these books than some other ones that I read normally. So
yeah, it's been fun. Like Dex said, I mean, I think I'm sure people remember, but I think sometimes they forget we are on 2 completely separate continents and completely separate time zones. So that can be a challenge. Yeah, separate hemispheres. It can be a challenge at times to get us all recording in a decent, time frame. And that's just the nature of us being so far away from each other and not living in the same time zone and all that stuff. We try to make it work. I think I would say Data does a good job of kind of giving us grace with that stuff. Like if we need to take a break, we take a break. But I feel like for the most part, we're pretty steady.
Yeah.
And also, I think a lot of the show comes down to Data. So I know that we all appreciate his work because he doesn't just host the show. He also edits the show, puts the show up. Because of the nature of the show, he is involved with everybody on the Discord and things like that we can't be a part of. And so, we appreciate his time. He spends a lot more time on the show than we do. So, it's been a journey for sure, but it's a lot of the brunt of the work actually goes on Data. So,
but it's fun. That's the important thing.
And we're all still here doing it. You gave us an out at the end of first Mistborn book, and none of us took it.
Yeah.
And look at us now.
Yeah.
We've come so far, which is kind of the next question. It's how does it feel to be in the middle of Stormlight Archive 5 years later?
Oh, boy. Well, I'll say this. I'm enjoying the Stormlight Archive quite a bit. Like I said, the first two books, I do have pacing issues with those books. Maybe I'll have a pacing issue with this one as well. But for the most part, I actually really like these characters. I really like the story so far. For me, it's really going to depend on how it gets wrapped up at the end of that fifth book, which Data knows by now, but we don't.
Mm.
And so that's going to really hinge it based on where I place this in as far as, my favorites of these books. But so far, I mean, all signs point to this could be my favorite series of books in the Cosmere that we've read. Just depends, like I said, on the ending, because I don't know what that's going to be. But
right. And I mean, yeah, even with the pacing issues you mentioned, that didn't stop you from going like 8 out of 10. So that's pretty dang good.
Yeah, I've definitely rated these books higher as full-length novels than probably any of the previous books that we've read.
Anybody else have feelings about being in Stormlight Archive 5 years after we began?
I like that we're not going to run out of stuff. I mean, Brandon's churning out more books than we're reading, so.
So true.
When did Rhythm of War come out? When did that get released?
Oh, hold on 1 second, and I will tell you. Rhythm of War.
I looked up Oathbringer the other day just because I was
2020.
curious. Oathbringer came out in 2017. I
Okay.
just looked it up because I was curious.
There was about
2014
3
was
years
Words of
between
Radiance. Yeah. 2014 was Words of Radiance, then Oathbringer. So then, yeah, that would make sense. 2020 was a Rhythm of War, and then it took him a little bit longer, I guess, because
Yeah,
it
the
didn't
fifth
come out until
one-
2024.
Fifth one took a little bit longer, yeah.
I was about to say,
Yeah,
I
he's
feel
reading
like,
all the secret projects.
It's
He's
true.
writing
true.
all the secret projects.
and all the era too. Like I was gonna say, I feel a bit okay about it, knowing that since we started the show, only one Stormlight book has come out, but no, apparently two of them did. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we know it'll be a little while before, because he wants to write all 3 of the books in the next Mistborn trilogy before he releases any of them. So
Interesting.
it'll be a bit before the next like big mainline Cosmere book comes out.
Hmm.
And it is actually 5 years this month since we started. So
Oh, wow.
yeah,
That's right.
Wow.
I didn't realize that until I was when the first episode of Oathbringer went up. I put up a new post on Reddit to be like, "Hey, come check this out." And I was like, "Wow, it has been 5 years this month. Wow, that's crazy."
Yeah.
2 houses and 2 children ago for us.
Yeah. Oh, I do remember y'all's adventures in moving.
Ugh.
Always so fun.
We're really happy we haven't had to do that in a while.
Yeah.
I mean, been
Yeah.
there.
Moving's no fun.
The email finishes up with, "The crew know so much now, and Data can finally talk about stuff. I wish you all a happy day. Thank you, nameless emailer."
Nope, gotta give him a name. Deal with it.
It said, "Please do not use any name for me." So
Too bad.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Fell for you, Max.
That'd be disrespectful.
Respect,
Oh, there you
respect
go.
our listeners.
Yeah. Respect the pouch. Respect it.
Mr. or Mrs. Doe
Smith.
Smith. Okay, and then we have one new patron this week, so we'll hit that real quick. At the ska level, our new patron is George.
George, you are an archivist.
Good one. So yes, if you'd like to send us an email like some of these folks did, the address is thesanderlanche@gmail.com. That's with an E and with a the and no spaces. So thesanderlanche@gmail.com. Find us on Instagram and Blue Sky and Facebook and Patreon, where George found us, where I am putting up my reactions as I read Wind and Truth for the first time. So check that out if you're interested in hearing me ramble, additionally to all the rambling you already hear me do on the show. We appreciate you guys. Patrons, you're awesome. Emailers, you're awesome. People on the Discord, we love our Discord people. Maybe someday we'll progress to the point where the other three can join the Discord, but we're not there yet.
Not there.
Maybe not necessarily joining the Discord, but we need to probably set up a Discord of our own because Skype is going down in a couple of weeks.
Yup. I was just thinking about that today and being like, yeah, do I need a new Discord channel? Maybe I'll just start a chat.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Or, I mean, I guess we could try Teams, but.
No. Sorry.
That's like not happening.
Fuck off with Teams.
Oh, man. I have like 3 different Discord servers. Maybe we'll record in the Sanderlanche server, and I'll just have to set up like special roles for you guys where you can't see any of the other channels except for that one. I actually haven't. I need to test. I need to test even being able to record on Discord because I have not. Do I need a separate program for that? I have no idea. We need to run that test.
I think I used the recording. I think we used a recording bot one time that worked.
Okay. I believe when I've been on recorded calls through the audio drama for like Patreon content, they used a bot.
Okay, I'll figure out a good one for that then. And who knows? We've had complaints in the past because the Skype recording quality is not the best audio quality. Maybe it'll be good for everyone. The audio quality will improve. Who knows? So yeah, we are going to have to switch it up though. I'm glad you reminded me of that because I was thinking about it earlier today and I didn't actually get down to figuring out what to use to record. So I'll have to look into that after this. But yes, thank you everybody who's just listening every week to us do wacky hijinks and discuss these books. So few chapters at a time. We're like 3 chapters, 2 chapters. At one point in the book, as I mentioned, it's going to be 1 chapter, although that 1 chapter will be ridiculously long. So you never know. But we appreciate all of you. Remember, we're just doing, like I said, 2 chapters for next time, chapters 10 and 11. So if you're following along, read those chapters with us. Music by Miracle of Sound and Wasing to the Time of Next. Colo? P.S. Fasher. Haha, I'm Sil.
Supernovas die, fractured in the fateful fall of man. Feel the heart raging of a strength unseen. Unity will bring the upper hand. So look to the break of dawn, to the break of dawn.